All right, we are live. Welcome to Kite Talks. This is Arup Sonzia. We have a special guest with us, Nikhil More. Nikhil's a dear friend. I've known him for, well, probably a couple of decades. Nikhil, thank you for taking the time out.
Thanks, Arup.
Awesome.
Very
So
happy to
just,
be here.
no man, it's our pleasure. So just for our listeners, Nikhil is the co-founder of Jungle Gym Studio. It's a boutique studio in Pune. And of course, if some of you have already noticed, maybe with some of my emails and other communication, Jungle Gym are our design partners. They're Kite Talks design partners. They've designed our logo and all the other fantastic stuff around it. But a little bit from Nikhil's point of view, I've worked with him for multiple years professionally, and he's designed multiple things. My old company logo, also while I was working for the FIFA Under 17 World Cup, the Mission 11 Million logo, which reached over 1 million kids, and of course has done multiple different projects, which he'll talk about in sport as well. I think we'll Nikhil, like I mentioned, we'll spend the first half of this conversation more talking about you and sort of how you got into design and then the second half we can spend talking about Jungle Gym, talk about what you guys are doing, some of the projects that you're working on, and yeah, let's start with maybe I mean, you studied design and that's so maybe we can start from there and maybe you can tell us some stories along the way.
Sure. Hi everybody, this is Nikhil here. My journey into design started, I think, not design, actually I wouldn't say that when I was in school, it wasn't like I didn't even know that there was a profession called design. It was just like, me sitting, I was doodling, I was like a lot of us, back of our notebook, things like that. And then slowly, my friends, my peers started to take notice. When I was in boarding school, I was called on to do the illustrations for the school magazine. So that would happen once every fortnight. I think we used to do a small publication, and I used to do these little cartoons, little comic strips. Caricature was a big kind of entry point for me into just being interested in like art and design and things like that. Following boarding school, I went to college. I don't know what I did in college. Nothing much. Didn't study much. But again, I was dabbling with the whole the visual arts. I was really enjoying that. And then I met somebody who was from a design school, and he told me like, okay, there's design school. They teach you these things, and I was like, wow, man, that's amazing. To spend your college days like instead of just sitting in boring lectures, to be doing stuff and doing these really fun exercises ranging from product design to graphic design to proper art, things like that. So I said, well, this sounds really good. Let me give it a shot. And that's how I applied for like a couple of design schools, India's top design schools that time. I tried NID, which was at that time the top place to be at. Failed miserably, didn't get past my entrance test. I just got too involved in one of the drawings, and next thing I know, the guy was like 15 minutes left, and I'm seeing pages and pages. I'm yet to do so much more. So I obviously failed that test. The second time I was a bit more well prepared. I kind of said, okay, this is something I have to study for. So I studied a little bit, went for my next entrance, again NID, second time, again failed. But then Srishti was also another school that was there, and I said, okay, I'll give this a shot as well. And I got in, and I got into the interview, and it was just a revelation, the type of education that I got there once I was there. It really opens up, because design is a large space. It's like there's so many fields within design, and you get a good 4 or 5 years to choose what you want to do. So I chose, I did not choose graphic design. I did a multidisciplinary course. So I was mixing streams. So I did a little bit of furniture. I did a little bit of product. I did a little bit of space. a little bit of new media, and I came out with holding a cross disciplinary diploma. But my heart and soul was with conventional, and actually you can say even traditional graphic design. So that was really what came to me naturally. And the other things were very interesting. And that's the beauty about being a designer. You know, you can dabble in so many things and you can just take bits and pieces and apply it in your work. But at the core, me as a person, I'm much more of a classical graphic designer. So I love typography. I love, like, you know, just simple forms and communication. And, like, you know, I now post, like, you know, learning the basics, idea of branding, and, like, you know, how do brands communicate? What do people associate? Like, how do they connect to brands? All this became, like, very, very interesting for me. So I was actually throughout, like, right from my college days, through my first job, second job, third job, I was just freelancing the whole way, you know, like on the side. So I never said no to anybody who came to me asking me for, like, hey, can you help me with this little thing? I was like, yeah, sure, let me do it. I mean, I'll charge you whatever. Like, do it for free even. But, you know, just wanted to get the experience of some real world things, because in college you're just, you know, learning things, and it's all fictitious projects. You don't see what your work, you don't get the privilege of seeing your work out there in the wild. So I did a lot of freelancing through my college days, through my first job. My first job was with Ink Talks. So I designed there. I was their first in-house designer. So I actually set up the entire their brand language, and, you know, the couple of conferences we designed. So event design was like one of the applications of what I had studied coming out of college. That was great. Spent 2-3 years in Bangalore, you know, first job, and, like, you know, living the salaried life and all that. It was good. And then I beyond the point, you know, like working in-house as an in-house designer for a firm. Maybe some of you people out there might see value in this little insight that I'm giving you here, is that designers, like people who are really, really passionate about what they do, they tend to kind of have a threshold for working on one thing, because as a designer, you like to work on multiple things. You don't want to you don't spend your entire life designing for one brand, you know. True. So especially when you're just coming out of college. So I was like, you know, okay, I've done 2-3 years of just doing this one brand. Of course, I've done my little bit freelance here and there, but primarily my entire work is this one brand. So I was like, okay, let me kind of, you know, now get a taste of studio life. So I moved to Bombay. I joined a design firm in Bombay, which was a proper design studio, you know, working on multiple brands, a lot of music related work that was going on there. A company called Bhavishyavani Future Sounds. They were originally called Grandmother India, and at that time, Grandmother India was like India's top design firm. Yeah. So, like, it was every kid's dream, design school kid's dream to work at Grandmother, you know, work under the mentors there and stuff. So I also wanted to work under that brand, but they shut shop and they kind of moved their staff to this new umbrella called Bhavishyavani, where I was working at. And yeah, very soon, like, you know, I quite quickly became the lead designer there. And then I had some cool guys working under me. We had some very, very interesting projects. Again, they were boutique. They were not like very commercial. So I really haven't had that experience of working on commercial brands. We were always working on these high passion, high intensity projects, which were like for smaller brands, like seeking more connection to their audience. So yeah, that was what I did next. Again, I was freelancing through this whole period. So I had already gathered, like, you know, Arup, we were working together when I was working.
While you were at Bhavishyavani. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So you can see, like, I was never saying no, you know, because I knew that at some point I was going to move and build my own practice. And I wanted as many people knowing that I do what I do when I get there. So yeah, I worked at Bhavishyavani for another 2-3 years, and then I moved back to Pune. And Pune is hometown for me, by the way, and set up shop here. And yeah, and that's when I called like a bunch of people and I told them that, hey man, I'm doing, I'm starting my own thing and would love to work with you guys. And work just started pouring in. I think also I was at a time of my life. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I was at a time of my life when a lot of my peers were starting their own businesses. They had the funds to afford me and my team and things like that. So started working, and then we somehow we got to do a couple of breweries, and it's like in this industry, more than marketing yourself, like there's no real marketing that happens unless you have a big marketing team. We don't have that. We don't want to have that. We want our work to bring us more work. So that's the kind of logic that we go with. So you do a good project, you deliver a good project, those people are like, oh great. Within those circles, they start talking about it, more people hear about it, and then they start contacting you. So you kind of start opening up projects which are similar in nature from the one that you have successfully delivered. So that for us became the alcobev industry and the restaurant industry. And as in today's situation, you know how that turned out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, like, although having said that, like, it's not like we were only doing that work. We did do a lot of other work. Like we did, we dabbled a lot in also the world of sport, where we met. And I think so when somebody like from a sports contact gets in touch with me, they're like, have you done any work in this field before? And I show them maybe work like MXIM, like Mission
11 million.
Yeah. And things like that. And then they're like, oh, this looks cool. And then they're like, let's, talk further. And then the project happens, you start working, things like that.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of like my background and how I got here.
Nice. So tell us, would love to know the thought process on Jungle Gym and the co-founders and maybe thought process on how did that name come about, and then I'll jump into some of the projects that you guys have worked on.
Yeah. So I mean, Jungle Gym is run by me and my wife Naina. She's a filmmaker. And she was working in Bombay, and when we came here, like, obviously running a business alone is not possible. I mean, it's possible, but it's very difficult. Like, you need that board to bounce ideas off, to like talk about, like, oh man, this client is giving me a hard time, or oh, that employee is like not, he's something, whatever. You need some, somebody who's looking at things from multiple perspectives. So Naina is my partner, and she handles a bunch of like the admin stuff. So the salaries, accounts, following up on payments sometimes, dealing with clients sometimes before I start talking creative with them. So that's us, and we're a very small team actually, by design, not by default. I believe that I mean I'm a strong believer of keeping your team lean, so that every project actually has it does not get so big that you don't know what your team is doing. I'm personally involved in everything that we do. There's no project that goes on autopilot and it's like, I have no clue what's happening. So that is by design, that we've kept our team very, very small, and we do collaborate with people from the industry. Like, let's say, for example, I'm doing a cookbook, and that cookbook requires some specific illustration. So I will hire an illustrator. I have a large network now, having worked on so many projects, worked with so many people, plus my design school fraternity. So we bring in the right people for the right project. And let's say in that same cookbook, you need some photography done. So we'll speak to a photographer, we'll bring a photographer in. There's no point having all these guys in-house. We're not churning out that much work that it works out. But yeah, in a way that really works for us, because one is that we get to choose our project. Actually, that's the biggest upside of having a small team, is that you get to choose your project. You know that if you're chasing a project, if the budgets don't work, you can drop it. You don't have to just take on a project to pay the bills.
True.
So that's a really good thing about, and we get to like work on brands that we actually see value in, that we would like to be part of, because as a designer, when you work on any project, you get in, like you're mentally invested in that project. So it becomes very hard. At least this is how I function, that I take on that project like as though it's like I am the founder of that business, So and it's quite taxing. So you can't. I'm not able to take on more than, let's say, 5 projects at any point of time.
Yeah.
So we really choose and make sure that we're in the right relationships with our clients.
Do you prefer to take on projects like from the beginning of sort of a brand or rebranding, because then it gives you that whole cycle to be able to then
100%.
suggest everything, or versus like coming to a brand and saying, or somebody turning around and saying, I want some tweaks in this.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, that's very recently that's happened where just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna turn the light on. It's suddenly gotten super dark because of the rains. So yeah, that has recently it happened such that a client came to me and said that, we've got this brand and we'd like you to design some assets for that brand to promote the brand. And I looked at their branding and I was like, okay, great. I'll give you 2 proposals. I'll give you 1 proposal for the work that you require, just to satisfy what you need to be done. But looking at what you guys have, the idea you all have, it's a great idea. It's a great name. Your identity, sorry, it's not working. So, I will give you 2 proposals, 1 to satisfy your current requirement and 1 to really take you where this brand should be, because you all are not doing justice to it. So, and a lot of people see value in that. They're like, okay, this guy's not just a TK, yes sir, 3 bags full.
Yeah, right.
He's like looking out and he's seeing like, how can he really add value to my brand. So I always prefer to have that control so that we can really set up a brand from a point of view that tomorrow somebody else can take that forward, So that's how we work. Coming to answer your previous question, which was why Jungle Gym, the name. It's really funny because we have random people come, like a courier guy comes into the office to deliver something and he's like confused and says, "Sir, Jungle Gym?" And I'm like, yeah, this is Jungle Gym. It's like, but what kind of a gym is this? So yeah, we are not a gym. There's a gym there, but it's Jungle Gym in one word. Jungle Gym, why? Because actually, so we see when a project is, you've heard of this idea of think outside the box, right?
Right.
So this think outside the box is a really it's a great term, but it's got some problems, I think, personally, because if you think outside the box, like the world is your oyster, man. Like you can just go crazy. Yeah. So you have to focus your line of thought. You have to put some structure. You have to design a box and you play inside that box.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we thought of the Jungle Gym, which is a pretty nice structure, the very simple cubic structure, like a cuboid
so much
structure.
You can do,
And there's no rules how you play inside a Jungle Gym. There's nobody said, okay, you're supposed to do this and then do that and then do that. It's random. The play inside is random. But there's only one rule, that you have to play inside that. So that's the idea. That shape is the design brief for us. So we make sure that when we are working with a client, we ask them to really define what is that box. Let's design that box together, you and me. Correct. And then you leave us to play inside that and we will deliver your brand. Yeah. So it's kind of like setting out our field of play before we start playing.
Fantastic. No, I think that's a superb analogy, and I love the sport aspect of it as well. At the end of the day, it's play, right? And I think that's also how you and I connect also a lot in terms of our love for sport. and
Yeah.
generally
And our hatred for each other's club.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that too. So let's see, we have like, I would say 10, 12 odd minutes. If
Yeah.
you I mean, could take us through a particular project, or because see, it's from a, I've known you for a long time, so I know at least a little bit how you think, and I've gone through so many multiple different projects that you've also been working on. But I don't know if you want to take us through sort of really how somebody thinks design, right? And thinks of their brand and their project, and how do you sort of, what are the stages? How do you approach something to be able to eventually come to that final product, or whether it's a logo or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, would really be awesome for you to maybe take us through that process to start with, and yeah, I mean, if you can feel free to share your screen if you need, and maybe take us through something, and anything that it doesn't have to be sport, but yeah, sport is would obviously be slightly more relevant to the audience, but that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk a little bit about like the process of how we go about a project because I don't have with me like, because normally how a project happens is that we do separate presentations. So for me to take you through like, 3-4 presentations until we get there will be too long. True. So I'll just talk about like what the process that we follow is. So as I said, we first set out by building the Jungle Gym, which is really understanding what the project is, really defining all our outer limits. Okay, we don't go beyond this, right? So we know that, okay, let's say that this is a project that, let's talk about DSK Shivaji, right? Super. I think I have that loaded up on my screen, so I'll take you guys through that immediately after. But for DSK, the client came to us saying that, okay, we are now getting promoted to I-League. This is very, very long back. This is a very old project. But I thought it's relevant because we are, on Kite Talk, we should ideally be talking about.
Of course.
So yeah, DSK came to us many years back saying that, and we did this project in collaboration with another brand, with another agency called Charu's Advertising. They were doing a lot of DSK's other work, like their building work, their, other industries, their automotive section and all that. But when they came to us and they started discussing, okay, like we are getting promoted to the top flight now to I-League, and with that they were like, we want to rebrand ourselves a little bit so that to match up with all the other I-League teams out there.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, I was like, okay, Shivajians, what is Shivajians? So, the main coach had come down that time and he spoke to us and he told us about the beginnings of the club and like, how it all began. And they said, we were called Shivajians. We've been playing, and he gave me very statistical data about, okay, this is where we played. These are how many people we have, and we have now, won so many titles and move and so on and so forth. So I said, but why are you all called Shivajians? So he said, because they are a pretty multicultural a team, like they're not like very specific to like, Shivaji, Chhatrapati Shivaji or anything like that. So he said, no, it's not to be mixed up with, Shivaji Maharaj and any of that. This has got something to do with Shivaji Nagar. So I said, okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So it's a place now. So I said, okay, what can you go back? So he didn't know why I was even asking him all these questions, right? So I said, yeah, because, we need to find out what is that thing where it started to separate it from the Shivaji Maharaj aspect.
Correct.
So, and for all those listening, Shivaji Maharaj is a great warrior, like in, from medieval times India, in case some of you guys don't know that. But yeah, so we went back to, so he was like, oh yeah, actually I remember now that the first time we practiced as a team, we didn't have our own ground. We used to practice on the COEP, which is a College of Engineering,
Pune. Mm-hmm.
So they said we used to practice there. I said, oh, that's interesting. That's a very nice heritage site and stuff. So maybe we can, take something from there to take forward. Now here we have a brand which is pretty already had a fair bit of following. Shivaji, and even before I League, they were like a household Pune brand. Like when I was playing football as well, I remember Shivajians was like the top team in Pune.
Yeah.
So before they went further and stuff. So yeah, we said let's kind of and their crest and all the things, they had some very specific, that red and white colors and things like that, which was set. So we said, okay, we don't want to disrupt that. When you do a rebrand, you want to always make sure that there's a good flow, from where they were to where they want to be, and there should be a transition. Shouldn't be too abrupt. Shouldn't be like, where did it come from and stuff like that. So I'll share my screen now. We're running low on time, I think.
Go for it. No, it's fine.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yeah, nice.
Okay. So yeah, here it was, right? So we basically, this is the Shivajians, the college that they were talking about, where they started practicing first. We went to the college, we went and visited the campus, we went and took pictures of the entire place and tried to find motifs within the space and I discussed this idea with them, like, would you be okay with taking something from here, even though it has nothing to do with where you all are today and what you all are today? Can we talk about this? And they were like quite excited, saying that, oh yeah, for sure, because that is actually where this began. And we then designed this logo, okay, which came from the main water tank from the campus. So we really minimalized it. You can see some things out here, which we tried to use, and we tried to minimalize it so that it becomes easy to embroider, easy to reproduce. And here we basically, you can see here, this was the original logo.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just a very generic shield. It had the Champions League ball on it.
Right.
It had like not the most legible top logo, had nothing to do with the bottom logo, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to do away with these having two names, DSK Shivajians, DSFC, things like that. So we just made it simple, and we kept that cutaway, the little angular slash. We retained that, and we put our new mnemonic in there, and we made this lower section, which is kind of like a 1 star we started out with. And the idea was that as they win more titles, they can fill that section up with more stars. So it kind of becomes like an adaptive unit. The same idea of that cutaway, we retained that onto every piece of collateral. So it was like on the jerseys, on any merchandise. Very simple, very recognizable idea of just a flash. And yeah, these were the kits that we designed for them. So this was their home, away, and then they had a third kit. And here you can see the players wearing the kits.
Nice.
So yeah, it looked really cool, and it was really well received, this project. There was and then even their stationery, everything, like there's a lot of other things that we designed for them which isn't here, but yeah, the idea was to take something very simple and recognizable, and just like, that's a very football thing actually, big checks, just like, alternating stripes, things like that, vertical stripes, horizontal stripes. You have very few things to play with, because you got to keep that recall very, very tight.
And I think for you guys, I mean, as designers, right? I mean, you got to really think through even the usability, right? I mean, only it's not only a crest, right? It's not only on the jersey. It's going to be on 100%. Their social media. It's going to be on their backdrops. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be on the runner boards on the field. It's going to be on TV when they're on broadcast. So it's like, I mean, that thought process. So even the simplicity of it, I mean, and has to come out on, I guess, multiple, and you have to think that through before. You can't say, oh, let me design this logo, and then suddenly realize, oh, it's not going to,
it's not going to work here.
It's not going to work
here. And actually, that's why the simpler it is, it may look even generic at some point. Like people may say that, oh, but this is just so simple and so generic, but then it becomes much more flexible to apply across brand touch points, which is, things that you're talking about. And we actually saw that with Shivaji, like we worked with them just to do this part, right? Just to rebrand them. And after that, they had their own internal team doing like little collaterals. I went and watched a match of the Shivajis, I think a year or two after delivering the branding. And I then saw, like, I was like, wow, these guys have really taken this to the next level. Like, I saw flags, I saw the runner boards, and everything was just so well done. And I was like, okay, this is great that they've managed to translate, what we set out to do. And that only happens when you build something simple.
Yeah.
So that was great. Like, it's always amazing to see how somebody else, takes things forward with a brand.
I know you and I have like briefly talked about it, and I know it's outside of like your work, but as like an outside third party project, right? You and I have talked about the Premier League and how they rebranded, right?
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorites.
And like, I want to get your perspective on it. I know you and I have spoken about it, but just give us a quick 2-minute thought process on that, on like what do you think they were thinking about, and the simplicity of sort of the different colors that they're using, and the bright aspect.
Very much. So now actually that's very cool that you've spoken about the colors and stuff, like bright colors. Like it's important to see that the transition of brands, right? If you see like what the Premier League was before the rebrand, it was this very like classic and very like the cup was always shown. The cup. They kept showing the cup and the ribbons, and very like kind of how do you say, princely, and it had this very like a royalty feel to it. And football is not that, right? Football is like it's a people's sport. So they really, like Dixon Baxi, the agency that did this project, is one of my favorite agencies out there. They really cracked that so well, because they understood that firstly, these bright colors, they don't work so well in print. That's one big problem. But if you look at the Premier League and where it's going, how it's being consumed, where is it being consumed in print? It's never being consumed in print. It's only digital. Like you see the matches online, you have the app, you have, all these touch points are all digital touch points. So they could go with those crazy colors, neon colors, which are a nightmare to reproduce in print, but they had no problem because they were just doing everything digitally. So, but yeah, such a cohesive branding, man. I have spoken with my peers about this project for really long. Now they're in like a rebrand 2.0 sort of thing that's happening, I think, end of this year. But yeah, I mean, they've really done an amazing job to take something that was in that kind of very like, hey, don't touch this.
Correct.
This is sacred. Right. To making it completely like your own.
Yeah.
Like play with it, go crazy. This is fun. This is energy. This is all those aspects start coming through. Like this is I'm guessing like how the brief must have been formed. They were talking about like, okay, football is like right now we are looking at this very kind of Barclays and like that whole like banking type of vibe to completely like a party, like literally like a neon party. and that's what you can see in it. It's classy. It's got that like, aggressive touch to it, sharp lines, great patterns. It's edgy, it's energetic, it's all those things. Nice. One of my favorite rebrands.
No, super. Just what would your ideal project be?
Ideal project?
I mean,
to design for India, man. To design for the Indian football team.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Have you seen the new Iceland? Can we? I would love to do it. Have you seen the new Iceland rebrand?
No.
It just came out like a week back. Check it out. To all our viewers out there, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful rebrand. So for the team of Iceland, which stole our hearts, right, during the last World Cup, on a team. So they've now got a crest that really is fitting for that.
Nice.
For that kind of a team. Yeah.
No, fantastic. I know we can talk about design and go on, but like maybe a few last closing thoughts for our listeners in terms of just to be, I mean, again, from us, like as an individual or even as organizations, just few things that you as a um, designer would suggest to them in terms of, I mean, yeah, just I'm being extremely open-ended.
Like, are you talking about like for like what tips I would give like people who are launching like as entrepreneurs, working with designers? Yeah, I think I would say that I mean it's pretty apparent right now that you cannot undermine design. It's a very 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 integral part of your journey as whatever you're building. You know, whether you're building a Kite Talks, whether you're building India's next elite club. Design plays a very important part of everything. It's there's no two ways about it. And the idea is to really to have a design partner that is really on the same page as you. You know, someone who really is passionate about that work. I think there's nothing can replace that. I mean, the money can be great, everything can be great, but the passion that comes from understanding, from that feeling of knowing what it feels like to be in the stands and to I'm just talking specifically football.
Yeah,
sorry,
of course.
but
Perfectly fine.
But yeah, I think it's important to have someone who believes in your brand. If I don't see value in a project that I am working on, I will probably do one of two things. One is I will be very slow to respond, or the second is I will overprice myself like crazy, so that it's like if you really want me, then it's going to cost this much. But if I really like, if as a design studio, we will not stop at anything to work with the people whose projects we see valuable. Of course, there are bills to be paid and all that, but that passion is the main fuel of any project. I think that's a very important part of it.
No, awesome, man. Nikhil, thanks so much. One last request. I don't know if you're on your desktop, on your laptop. Is it possible for us to show us your side wall as a closing?
You know what? My office got broken into a couple of weeks back. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so the guys stole my stuff from my wall, man.
Are you serious? They stole your entire
wall? Can you imagine? No, not all of it. Something. So it was that good for our listeners who haven't seen my wall before. It was better, but that's my wall.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's what a designer's office ought to look like, I guess.
Yeah, so how it works is that this side is the crazy colorful wall, and this side is only black and white, like all my favorite some nice paintings.
Yeah, nice. Good stuff. Thanks so much again for the time, and I know we'll continue the conversation, and of course we will obviously continue our journey with Kite Talks. So awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All the best with that, Arup, and thanks for tuning in, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.